Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live or listening to replay. Always appreciative of you all tuning in live or listening to replay. Listening to the vault every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or listening to replay. So always appreciate you all. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you all for tuning in. We got some news this week, as we usually do at the beginning. If you all want to look into it, it's a good article. Excuse me, I might do some sniffling this episode. Private blockchains were a good start, but they are not the future. So if you all want to Google that article or Google an article that states that, you all can see, and it's actually a clear distinction between public and private. There's actually private blockchains, for you all that don't know, just like their public blockchains. When they were talking to Facebook recently, their ledger was not going to be completely public, and for that reason the government said no, we don't want you all to open up a privately held financial currency. You have a billion people, you guys are essentially McDonald's at this point, and you all would have access to a billion people to pretty much inflate whatever currency you guys want to. And so you all can look into that. It's a very interesting article. It's not necessarily Facebook, but you all can look into even the gov telling Facebook, hey, we're not going to let you all launch your internal coin. There's more of a yet at the end of that it is actually never. This is a pioneering company, and so they've been known to push the limit, and this is one of those companies that is going to push the needle for sure. There's no, when you see Amazon, when you look at the, what do they call them, the FANG companies? FANG. So if you all ever hear FANG companies, you're going to hear of Facebook, you're going to hear of Apple, you're going to hear of Amazon, you're going to hear of Netflix, and you're going to hear of Google. And so when you all look at the portfolio of FANG, you want to look to see who has launched a currency yet. Amazon's probably going to be one of the pioneer players in that area as well for blockchain and internal payment system. So just look forward to that. Good thing to look into. This is a great question for you all. Definitely going to do an episode about it, but when you all look into an article, it says, what do I need to know when choosing trustees? So we're definitely going to bring you all that episode. A lot of people say, hey, trusteeship, they are looking to find trustees. So today's episode, succession versus estate planning, is going to completely cover that in a really beautiful way. So really excited about that. Aretha Franklin has left nearly, this is reported, left nearly $1 million in uncashed checks. So once again, these are situations that will get reported, because they say it's about $988. These checks made out to Franklin and her publishing company added up to $988,000. And so you all can see that there are situations, if you don't have the right succession plan in place, or quote-unquote estate plan in place, you all can see someone that is very well off by most people's standards, saying that someone has $1 million in even uncashed checks, is sitting around, literally uncashed, $900,000 uncashed checks. That just shows you the power that this individual had as far as wealth and at their disposal. And in turn, that means that not everybody that has capital is completely aware of succession and estate planning to its T, because they have businesses that are in other industries. She clearly was a singer first, or predominantly. Wealth was created predominantly, knowingly, in the music industry. And you can see once again that she, once again, the thought process of wealth versus, or wealth management versus generation are two different things. Management is different than acquisition. So just different points. Vista Capital, if you all know who Robert Smith is, Robert Smith lands a deal with Cloud Chase Scores by $2 billion. So definitely investing heavily in the software space right now. When you all look at Vista Equity, you all want to be aware of good companies, tech companies, software space companies. Even though you see his moves on the back end, his moves are still very inspiring. His moves are very strategic, um, and very much so important to see where investments being done at a larger scale. And so he really accommodates that, and we really are excited about, just at least looking at that article. Uh, I think that's what we pretty much got for this week on the news. I definitely reported a lot of good stuff last week, but this week definitely wanted to take the time to at least go over a couple of things. Today's episode: succession versus estate planning. Such an important topic. Maybe millennials may not be thinking about this, but a lot of the parents, the individuals over, what would we say, 35, 40, may possibly have children. Uh, this is an episode that traditionally goes to those style of people and up, because they're looking at the estate planning. They want to go to an estate planner. They want to talk to these people and they want questions. They want to be armed. They want to feel in control. When you read articles right now, actually in our space of succession planning or estate planning, what you really see is you see a lot of the younger millennials, under 35, wealthy millionaires, billionaires. They are very active in philanthropy. They're very active in their giving. They're very active in their business. A lot of them are active entrepreneurs, investors, but they're very active in their charitable giving, their succession. Where's the money going to go when they pass? They care very much so about estate planning. They care very much so about succession planning. They think in groups. They think in terms of being able to do something with their friends, their family, their associates, their peers. And so in turn, succession planning and estate planning is very much so in the mind of a younger generation of business people. So really excited. Got the trading partner here at Cornell with me today on the vault. Really excited about him talking, because we definitely have done some episodes. Today's a double header, so we did a double header earlier today, and today's going to be succession versus estate planning. Cornell, what's your thoughts on succession versus estate planning? Do you think they're the same? Do you have a difference of opinion on succession versus estate? What's your thoughts on that? You might be muted out. You there? Oh, maybe you can't hear me. Cornell, you there? Oh, you should be able to hear me. Oh, maybe he muted out. Alrighty, so succession versus estate planning. Really wanted to do this episode because there's a lot of people ask, what happens if we're trustees and we're not able to, if we pass or something happens. A lot of times, a lot of people say, who's going to be the beneficiary of the trust? Is it going to be, my children? How are they going to receive the wealth? And so, own nothing, control everything is the first principle. So since we know that it is a own nothing, control everything environment, we're in a position of now where we know that we are to make sure that our succession is the same exact way, to stay in the same exact position, not to lose any position, but to stay in a strategically powerful position. Fiduciary is a great position. You're a trustee. You there, Cornell?
It got stuck.
Said they got stuck.
Actually, my screen froze or something.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, succession, is big because it focuses more on of a what would we say for a succession? Succession is dealing with the actual role itself being passed on. So the role, not the entity, but the role. Succession planning. You move out of one position, someone else moves into that position. Estate planning is going to be a lot bigger. It's going to have a lot greater encompassing. It might have multiple businesses, multiple family members are sitting on the board. Estate is more family. Succession, once again, looks like position. So, that's what I would say to that. What would you say to that, Cornell?
You summed it up good. Succession.
Okay. I want
to know that difference as a good summary.
Now, we're not going to focus too much on estate, but a lot of the times with trustee training is focused on succession planning. So let's get down to what does succession planning look like in your private family scenario with your successors. I would like to isolate particularly the children, Cornell, and then going into possibly partners that will be successors in case something happened to you. You would have a competent business partner to stand in a place and be, or maybe they're not in business with you right now, but they've been, to a degree trained for your role if you're passing or something of that nature. What would you say to that?
Yeah, we move differently, so even with the kid situation, we gonna set that trust up. They ain't gonna necessarily be the beneficiary, but it's hard to explain. They don't know the process, so I let you take care of them.
Okay. Well, when I say that, I'm talking about more of what's the actual planning look like for the children. When you guys go on private family retreats or site visits. What is the conversation like? What are some of the things that you're saying in succession planning? What?
Like, but that's something you can put also in that contract that they would actually have to learn before, like I said, it succeeds over to you. You need to know the proper structure, the proper way to manage it. And that's how you keep your family legacy going. So we just sat in the room and the guy done told us, hey, you're going to have to make that tough decision. You're going to have to pick the smart kid. Not just the smart kid, but the kid that's going to take care of the whole family. So guess what? You might have a kid that's real smart, but only look out for themselves. That ain't the one you want to put as a success. So it's gonna be a different it's gonna be a different conversation when you start moving this. But like I talked to my oldest one now, but to me, my youngest one gonna be the bull. She gonna be the one that probably gonna be the one that take care of business a little bit more. Cause my oldest one a little bit but I gotta have them conversations with them so they won't lose everything that, like I said, we trying to roll over from generation to generation. But once everybody get the concept, it and the guy shows good ways where you ain't gotta force it on your kids. It's a different conversation. Just gotta get in the environment and learn what we talk. It'd be hard to explain it to being in the environment and moving the same way we move.
And it's interesting because even in trustee training, it's always been allowed for people to bring their children to the workshops just because of the fact that children are going to learn from the environment that they're around. With wealthy people hang out with wealthy people, people in trust hang out with people in trust. It's just that simple. So when a lot of times a lot of people say, well, how do I put them around you? You just really bring them around. They truly become the attachment arm of the business. So you find them a role and they have to fulfill that role in the family for a particular role. Very interestingly enough, and succession planning to me is literally just conversations. Revealing the truth to a youngster or anyone in general. When you all think of a lot of people say, well, what about a lawyer? Can a lawyer be the trustee of the estate or can they fulfill my position in making sure that the estate is managed afterwards? And so we always say, yeah, of course they have that opportunity to do so. And so that's another thing is you feel comfortable with knowing that your successor as a trustee is potentially someone that may be potentially versed in law, which is really, really good. And your succession is not based off of one particular thing. So it doesn't have to be a lawyer. It could be quote unquote a friend or a family member, a close associate. Once again, someone that you feel is competent to really run a position. You've given them time. You've given them time to be groomed. That period of time. How long would you say a grooming period? How long would you literally, at this point in your life, wait for groom someone to be in your position? It's more of a maximum to be prepared to do it. Like, what's a minimum actually? A minimum of time that you would want to be able to know that they're competent in what they're doing. Cornell.
Of course, my minimum might be a long time. Like, if you want to start early.
Well, let's hear
it. Let me see. minimum, I'm gonna say 5, 6 years.
Great work. That's a good long period of time for someone that you know is not going to squander. Obviously, you have something of value. You're not going to just say, "Hey, it's a year." A year in, is solid. As you because you get to at least get through one season of taxes if have to be. I think that year is good.
You need to explain to people. I hear you tell like glad even being successful, y'all gotta start learning that everybody works for you. The attorney works for you. The accountant works for you. So you want your successor to know that so they can know how to operate, deal with these people. So guess what? When you do pass away, that attorney still got to do what you told them to do because that's what you hired them for. You're not listening to the attorney. You want a good understanding of yourself so you won't be tricked into doing something that you don't understand. But like I said, this system here is solid. So that's a good point. A lot of people don't realize that.
Well, it's funny because I always tell trustees the first thing you go through trustee training you learn is that uh, the first question they ask you at the bank, even when you go into a bank with traditional as a trustee, they're going to ask you who's your successor trustee. That's the first question that they ask. So it's always interesting to see people that that don't know that type of thought process, but that comes from a lack of entrepreneur mindset. Where you're in a position of executive, you know that as an executive, you're not going to be an executive forever. Those roles change. You might move into a senior board advisor member and less hands-on as the wealth grows. And so to know that that's really important. Successor.
Our environment, like I don't know if a lot of people listening understand it, but we in that 1% in type of environment. Like when he's talking about with the bank, like I had the situation at Bank of America. So, who was my successor trustee?
Oh yeah, yeah. They were looking at the beneficiary too.
Yeah, they look at that too.
Yeah.
So you gotta know how to move and word, but it'll put you in a good spot. Even start conversations and great relationships with people that you never thought you would have.
Yeah, very much so. And just I think I know what story you're thinking of. But what's so funny is that those are countless stories that we can think of where we stuck our hand out, approached someone because of some knowledge that we knew and was able to have a conversation. And that's something that a successor has to have, that mindset. They have to have, I'm going to take this to the next level mindset. I think even looking at a successor and saying, hey, I want to put someone in position just to manage the assets, is probably one of the worst things you could do. That's why you traditionally see wealth squandered in the first generation, just because of the fact that, you think about it, they didn't manage it. They didn't know how to manage it.
About earlier, with success, like people, we want people gonna say, well, Christian and Cornell, y'all already straight, y'all already situated. What can I do? This is what we just said. By getting yourself educated, even if you didn't have no money, it might put you in the room with the right person. So that wealth of education you just invested in gonna be key to you being a great successor down the road. You ain't gotta always be worried about money. But you gotta put yourself in the right environment and bring something to the table. So now them conversations change. So the people gon' trust me, people gonna recognize you moving in a different way. You want to understand, gonna stop you and have a conversation with you. So that's the key. A lot of y'all always talk about how much this and that. I'm trying to show you how you can get over that hump. You still gonna have to spend some money, but it may save you some money because of the relationships you might build. Now you might be cool with a banker that, guess what? We got people that we deal with. I know they can call their banker right now and get you a credit line without credit check. It's just the way they moving with their business. That's the type of environment we move in. So I'm trying to get y'all to see. Stop focusing on the money all the time. Do what you need to do. Put yourself to be a success.
Well, sometimes it's interesting. I think people are so strapped for cash is that they say, oh man, that's where my mind has to be at right now. I need more cash. I need more money. There's no way I can sit here and not make money. I have to make money right now, you know. And
You know what
that's
I call that?
what's that?
The public mindset.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah,
If you, first of all, if you're a true entrepreneur, you know everything 50-50 anyway. So guess what? You're gonna fail a few times before you succeed. So money shouldn't be your problem. The problem you should be working on is kind of like what we're talking about. Operating correct. You're gonna get the growing pain, but your main objective is to make sure you're growing your business correct. So when you come back and do it the next time, it's gonna be great. It's not the money. Everything, even when we talk about trade, what you don't hear me talk about the money. What we talk about the money for? The money there. In a business, guess what? The money there. Is the operation there? No. You know what Warren Buffett do when he buy a company? Who the first people he get rid of, Chris?
the management. They get rid of management.
They not good successors.
They're not good successors. Exact, great example. And so when you all look at, well, he's M&A, so he's complete merger and acquisition. But merger and acquisition still means we're going to merge this company, or we're going to acquire this company, and the previous CEO, they're getting fired,
That's it. You don't.
and everybody that was on the management team is fired. And Warren has a team of management people that come in, and they have a system in place. And quite surprisingly, all private wealth and hedge fund have systems in place that they are very staunch on. They don't play games. They want that system to come in and work. Robert Smith is the same exact way with the
From them, everybody.
for sure, from the software investment perspective. Yeah, he's that very, very much so. Very disciplined. They have a system. I mean, just because you don't hear Robert firing people, just best believe Robert has a system that it works, and for that reason, he's firing people that don't fit the system. Yeah, for sure. Every time he's in M&A, so he's in the same field that Warren Buffett is in, and it deals with succession. So when you all look at the estate plan, you know the overall plan for him is to have the charity, the foundation that his family and him run, and then as well the businesses that his venture capital private equity fund takes over, and in turn there's going to be a successor for him as the trustee of that senior trust of all of those different companies that he's bought out. But you can see that he's going to have to groom someone to take over that position, and the older you get, obviously you're going to have to train someone. So you know, best believe he's in private equity. He's very focused on training a successor right now. He has to be thinking about that. As you grow older every day, you have more wealth. At any moment you could go. He knows his life is more precious as he's gotten older than somebody that's younger. You know, so he knows that there is nothing but finding a successor at this point as the call of duty. Why? Because his days are numbered, just like all of our days are numbered. But you know, you'll see more of a succession plan from someone that truly is used to hiring and firing, used to laying off people, that are used to some people would call it cutting corners. Back in the day, it wouldn't be called cutting corners. Now they call it leaning out the fat, making the company lean. When you all look at traditional big Fortune 500s right now, they're doing corporate buybacks. Corporate buybacks is a form of succession. The company is buying back stock to ensure that they have enough capital to fund future ventures. Corporate buybacks. They're pulling back money now. They're buying back their stock. Well, who's buying back the stock? The company's buying back the stock. Well, if the company's buying back the stock, it sounds like the owners. It sounds like the founders. They're getting ready for a succession plan. When you do corporate buybacks, you're looking for successors now. Why? You need enough money to make sure you can pay the next person to come in and fill your role so you can move on to the next company. That's how corporate buybacks help the founder of PayPal, Elon Musk, go over and take money from the selling of PayPal, succession now, M&A, and then move over into a place of once again succession, because he obviously started a new company. So succession planning is very, very important. In estate planning, you go from one business to the next. And estate planning is very essential, but the reason why we highlight succession planning in this particular episode is because this is the vault. So trustee training is succession planning, not estate planning. When you look at the attorney for that or someone of that nature, that's a gambit. You don't even, when you see lawyers, they call themselves a specific thing. How many estate attorneys have you run into? How many have you talked to? How many have you, sat down and corresponded with for planning out your estate or the estate of your last name? And that's someone for the public documents, because that's dealing with estate. It's on the public side. You're dealing with estate planning. That's fine. But succession planning, that sounds a little bit more private. That sounds like the Trumps. It sounds like, oh, there's an issue with me being on the board. I'm resigning, and now there's someone else in place called Donald Jr. And now Donald Jr. is running it. Well, guess what? Me and Donald Jr., we talk on family retreats. I'm sure I can tell him something. We talk on site visits. I'm sure I can talk to him about something privately, because we are in a private family foundation. I'm sure we could talk about that privately, right, Donald Jr.? That's how succession planning looks. So, there's issues. Let's talk about the one guy. Okay, well, I don't know anything. So I can, hey, Junior, make sure everything is run well. Why? Succession has been trained since a child for business, for war, from the beginning. Some people say, oh, I'm just now getting his knowledge. I wish I would have got it earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vault wants to put a disclaimer out to you. If you are listening, please do not tell the Vault you wish you would have learned it sooner, because everyone that said that has never done it. It doesn't matter when you get it. What matters is that you execute. Everyone can sit here and talk on the internet about succession planning versus estate planning, but are you going to move this week and talk to an estate planner? Are you going to move this week and go contact the Vault at Christian@trustchristian.com to go through trustee training for succession planning? It's a decision that has to be made. Succession planning is what everyone should be training themselves for, whether it's for themselves or to to be in someone else's position, mentor's position. If you all have mentors, see, when you go through a mentor program, you succeed your mentor. That's called success, and that means it's a succession. So you succeed your mentor. You learn what the mentor gives you, and you go out and you make it better. Succession. Like I say, when you think about putting someone in place after you, please don't look for someone that is going to sit on assets. Oh, they sound like they're a good manager. How about they're going to focus on the keys to wealth building, which is protecting it, preserving it, growing it, and passing it on. Well, what happened to that part? And so, that requires a system. Succession requires a system. Why? Because you're training them on the SOP, the standard operating procedures, the everyday tasks that you do. See, this is the difference between a public education and a private education. Private is very specific. It's very focused on you and your family winning. Public is kumbaya. You know that song, Kumbaya. Estate planning is kind of kumbaya. Why? Because right now, they say, in all age groups, this is from anyone that has opened up a bank account, all the way to 65, to a degree is not comfortable with dealing with financial advisors at a bank. Why? Because we just left one of the largest financial crises, and that was done by who? The banks. So people have lost confidence, and will be someone saying, hey, can you put our money in the stock market, invested, and then we're going to retire in 30 years. Why? Because guess one of the largest businesses Cornell and I sit here and talk about investing and dealing with is senior living homes. More people are putting their parents in senior living homes across cultures in the United States. We see so many elderly that are living on assisted living. So where do they go? Assisted living homes. They're not living with their children. Where's the succession in that? Parents, they work their whole life to acquire a house. Then they end up selling the house because no child can come in and afford the house. We've heard this across the board. It is a preponderance of children not being able to afford their parents' mortgage because of where they're starting out in life financially. With student loans, with just getting on their feet, they possibly don't want to live in the same city. And even if they do live in the same city, traditionally they're not living with their parents. They don't want to live with their parents if they can afford not to. Would you agree, Cornell?
I agree.
So these are the general consensus type thought processes across the board. Apartments are popping up at astronomical rates. Astronomical rates. You go to major city after major city after major city, and there is construction going on, there are skyscrapers going on, and they are building apartments. Now, let's get into a little bit more, we'll drop this gem on you. There's a thing called sustainable housing. So even though they're building these skyscrapers and they're doing a thing called gentrification, you all can look into sustainable housing, where housing is now subsidized for portions of those skyscrapers for people that are of lower income and work in that particular area. So now they can afford to live in that area because these skyscrapers or these bigger apartment buildings have to have certain floors for what do they call it? What type of income they call it, Cornell? Fixed income. There's a little bit, it's not completely fixed, but they call it lower income. That's even worse. They call it lower income people. They allow what they call classified lower income people to live in these places. You know, we're not going to state technically that they are lower income people. The vault won't put that curse on them because it sounds like that. We're just going to say these are people that work at traditional fast food places, coffee shops, places that some will be getting quote unquote minimum wage to work there. So you all can see that those people are still able to live in those major cities, and those real estate developments are popping up everywhere. If you all want to look, traditionally they're going to be called opportunity zones where you are. And so this is once again what Trustee Training focuses on. It focuses on that type of thought process, knowing market trends, knowing succession, knowing your role, training the next generation for knowing their role. Think about your parents and what they gave you as far as financial literacy, financial education. Think about how much further your education might be above theirs. So there wasn't enough on their part to give to you. And by that being the case now, we have to go into different environments. Like Cornell says, we diversified our knowledge base. It wasn't go to school, get an education, work a job. Cornell talks about, hey, 6-figure job means you're really making less than 70K, 80K. Wow, because there's taxes involved. There are people in America, hopefully this is not you listening, there are people in America that don't want to make more money because they don't want to pay more taxes. That's the only reason they don't want to make more money. They just say, if I make any more money, I will pay more taxes. Wow. Join the club for people that are on the public side. You have a choice in private trustee training to move around and maneuver that position. But at the end of the day, succession training puts you in a position of own nothing, control everything. So you eliminate certain liabilities. So we're just really excited to talk about this topic. Feel free to type any questions into the chat. Thank you, Andrew, for tuning in live and saying hey. Always appreciate everybody that types into the chat hey. Like we said, we got Cornell here talking about succession versus estate planning. Just a very important topic to talk about because so many people come to the vault and they have these questions of who should be in place if something happens to me. And when you really think about who should be in place, who do you trust? Who do you trust to be able to help your wife manage the books after your passing, or help your husband manage the books after your passing, or train the children? Who do you have? And that's why trustee training was started. It was birthed out of a need for training successive trustees for the next generation, because that's the first question you get asked. Who is your successor? Some people say, well, how can I know that before I go? Well, how do you think they're going to fill your shoes and not squander it? There's a lot of dedication. There's a lot of investment into the succession. The succession is an investment. A lot of people say spend money, but it's an investment. Investment in your children. Investment in the successor trustee. You get them the materials they need. You get them the education that they need. The real world experience and the book smarts. The formal knowledge. Very, very important. Mentor said, educator said, the reason why wealth's not passed on from one generation to the next is only two reasons. A, the children have no interest in what you want to do, and what you guys currently were doing as a family. They don't want to do it. The second thing is there was no manual left behind to train the next generation. If anything happened to you, they had no manual. There was nothing written down. There was no formal manual. That's what everyone asks. Where's the manual for trustee training? There has to be a manual. Why? Because you have to have the minutes. You have to have the diary that states your decisions on a daily basis to the successor trustee. They can go back and read the financial decisions that you made as a trustee. This is the manual once again. This is succession. This is not just standard operating procedures. We're going a level deeper. We're going with the thought process behind decision making. How long does it take for an individual to write down, why do we make this financial decision today? What are some of the things we were thinking about in our corporate meeting today? Or our trust meeting today as trustees, the board of trustees, or our site visit? What were we sitting there thinking about today? How long does it take to write that out? And bam, now it's stored for the successor to come in and read. Because that's a part of them coming in and actually fulfilling that role. Is they need to know the thought process of the predecessor. They needed to know that. It gives them an advantage. They just gained 30 years of experience. They just gained 10 years of experience. They gained 5 years of experience through just reading someone else's good decisions, bad decisions, decisions nonetheless, aggressive decisions, passive decisions, business decisions versus employee decisions. Employee decision says, I'm going to get up, I'm not going to be able to write off my gas, I'm just going to drive to work. Business person wakes up and says, this is a write-off. Why? Because this is a business expense. It's a family business expense. It's not a personal expense, and I'm trying to itemize on my taxes for employeeship. There's a difference. And those differences make a difference on how much money is being calculated or not. So knowing that thought process for successorship is very, very important. Having them know that. Is there anything you would say about the successorship, Cornell? Some other saucing on that?
Sauced it up. Took care of that one.
All right, great. Well, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I don't see any questions in the chat. Always appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. Succession versus estate planning. That's what it's all about. You're either in trustee training or you're on the public side and you're looking to say, hey, you know, how can I set this up? You all can see. We've been talking about this on the vault for weeks, going on months almost. Aretha Franklin's estate, where we traditionally see a lot of clean estates passed on. We even seen a guy, we don't really know the details of the story. It's a guy named Jeffrey Epstein. He was in some type of legal matter, but as you can see, because of his superior knowledge, because of his knowledge of estate planning and succession planning, literally they at least revealed that $200,000 was given to the lawyers that administered the transfer of wealth of $500 million. And then you all can see how we're looking at and comparing another estate plan or succession plan with the Aretha Franklin's estate. Clearly has made a ton of money, clearly has royalties from songs and things of that nature that are going to keep going on around the world. And you can see that estate a little bit more in shambles, not because of the reporting being bad, but the reporting nonetheless that shares that this is what's being disclosed and revealed in a public court. The wills are being reported. There was no will in the Epstein case. Or when you look at the wills were through trust. So when you look at her estate, there has been wills. There's even what we even talked about tonight, a a $900,000 total amount of checks that were not cashed from royalties and publishing. These are things that were revealed to the public by put on public record, and they have to be disputed if they're wrong. Clearly, we're just seeing reports of what is being revealed. Traditionally, when you see an estate situation with her, it's truly going through an estate situation. These are things being revealed in an estate manner, based off of someone passing, so you all can look at the details, do further research, and look at that for yourself and see the more disarray of that estate as opposed to a different type of estate. And you all can see that. So, very exciting to just kind of talk about these things, and not just talk about them. Cornell and Nicole, we live it, and we just really always love having these public conversations about things we talk about in the private succession. Training up the next generation. We saw, people saying, well, how young should I train my child? We've seen young guys in the room at 12, 13 years old. We've seen young guys. I mean, you really do see families at a 4 to 3-year-old age sitting around in a room, but definitely being able to shake men's hands at 5 and 6 years old. 13 years old, being able to sit in a room, have to look you in the eyes at 13 years old, and hear private equity conversations, private family trust conversations, succession conversations. The entire conversation is about succession. That's all they're hearing. So there's no hesitation to bring your children around succession planning. Why? Because that's who it really is for. It's for them because they're going to grasp it easier through just being around the environment where the adults have to learn so much more. They have to get rid of so much junk to actually focus on private now. Whereas the children, they're just around private. They hear private. When they hear private, they see private. They see that there's a different maneuvering with private. And so they move a different way. They understand that they can walk into the public and say, okay, my friends don't move this way. My friends' parents don't move this way. But you guys are moving differently. What have your little ones said anything about the difference in how you move, Cornell, as opposed to some of their friends' parents?
Cool.
They cool?
Huh?
You said, I said, have your children said anything about their friends' parents as opposed to your lifestyle?
And they said about their friends' parents?
Yeah, lifestyle. Just how the parents are moving with their children, and do they comment on how their parents are moving with their children as opposed to how you're moving with them, as far as succession training and just having those type of business oriented succession training conversations?
Yeah, I heard some of the parents ask me a few questions that they heard stuff from my kids. By the way we move, like they know we doing something different than most people doing, but in a good way.
Have your little ones said anything about some of the conversations they have with their friends about their parents?
Have I heard what?
Have your little ones had a conversation with you about with their friends, about basically some of the things they talk to their friends about when it comes to their parents and the way they're being trained, as opposed to your little ones? And have they talked about it? Have they told you some of the things they like what you do that they would never want someone else to do, and vice versa?
Is with me, kids really ain't focused on other kids like that.
Okay.
So they ain't really having they are having a conversation. I'm pretty sure they shared it. And I teach my kids to move with people that's moving the same way they moving. So more than likely their friends gonna wind up catching on. Kinda like a rich dad situation.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That comes, eventually. When you get your kid, that conversation eventually gonna come to you.
Right.
Friends over to the house, your kids moving a certain way. Friends pick up on it. That's what they gonna ask. Their parents probably don't know, but they can educate their parents on the conversation.
Right. And what do you think?
As a parent, you should feel a certain way if your kid coming to you and talking at a higher level than where you at. Like, You should be trying to find out who they around yourself. You should be called to get the information. So you can't take it the wrong way, but some parents stubborn like this. Some people think they got it all together. So they got the nice house, a nice car right now. Can't tell a lot of people.
So what made you? What do you find as far as the succession plan for the trading with the kids? What? Why do you find that's where you want to focus on succession for the cultural development purposes of what you're looking to do with the succession training and specifically training, young African Americans and other cultures as well, but particularly youth in the trading? What made you say I'm going to focus on succession in that particular area?
It's one of the strongest investments you're gonna make in your life. Even like what I do with the adults, it's gonna be a little bit easier with the kids because you got kids. They attention span gonna be way higher than some adults. They still learn, but think about what I'm teaching them. By the time they probably leave high school, they probably at a level, but they would probably never have to go get a job. They still can go get educated. Now they can focus on what they really went to school for. Not have to worry about outside things because I just showed them something that's gonna last a lifetime. Stock market is never gonna end. To me, it's better than real estate. Real estate is good, but we talking about $10 trillion a day that's moved. Y'all don't even know $10 trillion a day moved.
You said what now? You were muffled. What'd you say?
$10 trillion a day is moved in what I'm teaching these kids. So that's never going away. That's the world market. The world would crash if the stock market went away.
Right.
So I choose to go that route, but I'm gonna keep the whole aspect, not just trade, but like you said, the business, the trust, the succession. So if I start with them young, they got all this by the time they get to the adult age. Their focus in college is gonna be different. That's why you see some kids are more successful in college because of the way their parents taught them early on. When they got in them environment, they get caught up in the environment by trying to adapt. They already fit in. They actually at a higher level. So guess what? They more prepared to take on this, especially when they come from backgrounds like me. You don't really come from a whole lot. You're gonna perceive the information a little bit better than somebody that might have been a little bit more privileged than you. That's why I started it with the kids. Well, I'm finna start with the kids first of the year.
That's great, man. And I just really wanted to highlight that, succession planning, comes with the children as a priority. Like you say, one of the greatest investments you can ever make. You
I'm
know,
paying power and trade. It's gonna be free for the kids.
oh, that's awesome.
And I got people coming in that I already talked to, celebrities, ball players. It's gonna help out business people. Like they gonna get whoever get accepted into there, they're gonna get a true program. Like they gonna be prepared when they leave from me to succeed. Whether the mom, parents do anything, they gonna be prepared. Cause I'm gonna put them in position.
Right.
I feel better by creating something that's gonna leave a legacy than just something that's gonna make some money. Cause everybody don't know what to do with money. But if I teach you, even if you had a problem with money, something that you go ahead and make whatever you want to. Eventually, you're gonna come up out of that, get a little bit smarter, still balance out even it's up because you just learn a lifetime trade, basically a trade.
Well, I think, maybe we should do an episode about that, the fact that it is a trade, just to label it that, because I think, so many people look at it as a fad, even with the internet, it's like, ooh, this guy's making $5,000 a month. It's like, okay, or this guy's making $20,000 a month, or this guy's making, it's like, what are we talking about here? This is a business. There's no 2 week in a paycheck. It's a salary. It's not the same amount of money every single month. And when you see this type of thought process glorified over the internet, it makes you look sideways because
We don't touch on like real people that's making real money, not on the internet, advertising you what they making.
right,
Serving the move. So
right,
you got to get out the hype. Like even adults, we ain't talking about the kids. Adults, you are smart enough to know when somebody. Why would a guy that's making $200,000 be sitting on the internet putting a ton of videos up if he was moving accordingly? Not. A few of them maybe, but we talk about success. And guess what? If I'm at that level, I'm not even operating my own Instagram, Facebook, or none of that. If I'm at them levels, you're not exposing yourself like that, and we learn it in the environments we move in. I'm gonna teach you the proper way. No, not internet.
Hey, hey, look! I asked the trader earlier today. I said, hey, you got a Facebook or or any of that stuff? He said no. I said okay. And he's like, but yeah, I have LinkedIn, and that hasn't really worked for me anyways, because I'd rather just talk to traders. And it was just so funny. I was like, yeah, LinkedIn is for people trying to get a job. And he would laugh with me, and it was just hilarious. It was just interesting to know. He was like, yeah, I don't have any social media. So, by not having social media, it does force us to have those face-to-face relationships, face-to-face conversations. But that conversation is obviously, it was actually very, very fruitful. It didn't come from the internet. No knock against the internet, but it didn't come from the internet. It came from just being observant of the surroundings, seeing that someone else was trading, someone's in the same field that you're passionate about or something you're looking to grow. And really just, well, a lot of people say, I don't know a lot of people that are trading. This is the same exact thing that this trader said. This trader sits there in this environment quite frequently and has many different relationships in that environment, but no one else was able to have that trading conversation other than me. No one else is having that conversation. When people ask questions about trading to this individual, it's more like how much money you're making. When we have a conversation, it's pure strategy. It's pure, what are you doing? What are you looking at? Oh, I love this. Oh, I'm excited about this. I'm so happy I can talk to someone else about these terms that no one else is going to know, that they don't know. Or literally this individual said they love the psychology of investing. How many people are able to talk about the psychology of investing? The psychology, not the strategy, the psychology. Strategy is a system that you teach the monkey. Hey monkey, when you see these confirmations, press buy, press sell. But the psychology, when we were looking at it, was the emotion. How do you separate the chart from the money? The emotion from the chart. How do you separate that emotion? How do you flush out your emotions from investing? How do you flush out your emotions in your succession planning? How do you flush out those emotions? Why? Because people will make ill decisions on their emotions and put the wrong, like you said, whether it's the wrong child, whether it's the wrong person in place for succession or for estate planning. Because of emotion. Business is just very logical. It's the numbers game. People know that. If the numbers don't add up, it's a problem. So, logic. It's got to equal. So just excited to have that conversation about succession and thought process. Because this succession now puts that individual where they have children and they're a parent. And they want to know, well, if something happens to me, what if I don't want to give everything to the other one to manage for my children? People think about these things. These are things people think about. People think about these things. What happens if something happens to you and you have a partner with children, but you don't want the partner to be able to completely mismanage the children's part? Maybe not that partner's part, but the children's part. Succession planning comes in place. Why? Because obviously that person's not going to manage the children's wealth. So you're going to have someone else. So who are you training? Who are you having those private conversations with about where the balance sheets lay for the family? Who knows the codes to the safe? Succession planning. Who do you trust? That's always the first question. Succession can be asked. Who do you trust? Write those people down. You can start figuring out. You can ask them. You can interview them. Figure out if this is a person that's willing to at least take lessons to learn how to be in a position that you're in. And that's truly mentorship. We've outgrown mentors. We still got mentors. We look forward to succeeding our mentors in everything that they've done. The amount of capital that they've generated. The amount of families that they've been able to touch. Think about that. We are living in a generation where most people can't even say that they're going to succeed their parents. They've already done that. They did that before they were 25. Most people in the millennial category have almost out-succeeded their parents. They make more money. They do more things. They have more exposure now because of the internet to wealth. Succession planning. Most parents are not able to say that they're training their children to succeed them in their business. Definitely not in their job. Are you going to be succeeded in your business? And if you are, that's awesome. But if not, guess what? There's hope. Even if the children don't want to actually do it, you can still train someone else. And still have the children be a part of that estate. Why? Because someone can help manage one aspect and they go out and they do their thing. But it's still going back to the family. So when that person is out of place, that you put in place, the child can truly step in from a bird's eye view and say, wow, I've seen this done 2 times now. The previous parent and I've seen this person in place actually get the job done. We know what management is now. Not just going out and me doing my own thing and growing well for the family. Now we know what it's like to go out and help manage the family. It's in succession of the entire estate. Not just my particular or the division that I was particularly managing. It's dealing with it from a more board member perspective, with other board members, an executive type thought process, as opposed to just focusing on your particular division or your particular skill set, your particular business. It's in conjunction with the family. So as you all can see, we really talk about a lot of the family, and that's really who enjoys these podcasts. It's people that are into family, people that focus on wanting to grow their family, grow a legacy, and legacies are only passed through. Most people don't pass wealth through a corporation, ladies and gentlemen. You all know that. If you do know that, if you don't know that, you all can do your research and see how many people are passing wealth through a business entity on the public side as opposed to the private side. How does wealth get passed along? It gets passed along in the private perspective. That's what happens efficiently. The rest of it, in the public, it's called probate. And if you don't die with certain things in place, then it's a thing called intestate. Appreciate you all. If you guys understood how powerful and know how powerful probate is, and how much capital your family is going to give up in probate, how much capital your family is going to give up in intestate, it's worth your due diligence to put something in place immediately. For the family. Not for, oh wow, we got to spend some money up front right now. Well, you got a choice. You have a choice that you're not educated on, so you might have to educate yourself on a choice, or the choice is going to help you get educated to actually make sure that the position that you really want to have happen does. Remember, we deal with execution. It's just execution. And by that being in place, you don't have the situation where you have $900,000 in uncashed checks from royalties. I think your family can use that a lot more immediately than letting the checks get outdated past 60 days. And now you got to go hound someone to actually rewrite the check. That was called mismanagement. Lack of successorship. lack of truly even estate planning. And then once again, we can do comparisons with other estates that are being passed along with even more money. And those situations are a lot more just different. They're just different. Not a bad or a good, but just different. So appreciate you all for tuning in live or listening to replay. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything at the Vault. Christian at Trust Christian. We got Cornell. He's actually doing another webinar. Are you doing that next week, man? This is a pop-up.
Pop-up.
It's a pop-up once again. You know, it's always a pop-up because...
Me the week next week, 7, 8, 5 o'clock Central Time for Christian. He ain't a night hawk. I would put an end time, but it usually run over the end time. But we're gonna say 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
But I'll never cut it off, but I don't think I'm gonna do no 7 hours this time, but 2 days. It's gonna probably be the cheapest route to get into it, and it's direct information. It's pretty much 5-figure information I'm sharing with you.
It's a lot more than that. But Cornell is definitely doing a trading webinar, ladies and gentlemen, on the 7th and 8th of September. This is something that, as you can see, it's just a very, last minute pop up. It was just something that, he obviously has the time. And it's really more of a demand. It's more of a demand. There are people.
I don't do it unless people request it. So a lot of people that requested just for me doing something this morning, but people always asking me anyway. So I'm gonna get one more in before I take this long vacation.
Right. So, and that is very true. So definitely, I appreciate you, man, because when people walk into trusteeship, they always walk into now that they're in trusteeship, they know that they're protected.
We're gonna prepare y'all. So we're gonna do an in-person event. We're gonna get it together.
Yeah, definitely.
Pay yourself now, so if you don't catch next week, October, November, be looking for something in person.
Right.
Probably do it in Atlanta and get a better feel of the environment.
Right.
Some stuff we just can't talk about on this computer.
Right. So, yeah, definitely I appreciate everyone that's actually even went through the Vault Trustee Training or definitely went through the webinar with Cornell. We've never heard one complaint. We've always heard a lot of great feedback from the trustees, always from the people that have gone through with the webinar. And, sometimes people, they get what they pay for. They say, oh, it's something I never knew. Well, sometimes that's all they wanted.
And that's how a lot of people with the trade. Even if you're not ready, one thing we do with our culture, we don't share it with somebody that might really need it at this point. So even if you ain't ready, stop hogging everything to yourself. You got some people trying to move the same way you move. Share it with them. Guess what? We work together in our environment. Guess what? You might be able to work you something out if you bring somebody to the environment. But just don't sit on it. You get the knowledge, you get on the podcast, so you want the knowledge. You may not have the money, whatever. There. It's different ways to get around things. If you want something bad enough, you'll figure out how to get to it so you can get to that level. So that's one thing we don't do in our culture that I see that every other culture does. They don't go tell their buddy, their daddy, mama, the business partner they barely deal with. They don't go tell them because they want everybody moving like them. It ain't a status thing. So start sharing. Share the YouTube channel. Somebody might need to hear this. Somebody might be sitting there with some money, don't know what to do with it. Or might need the proper business structure. Share it.
It's interesting, like we say, succession is success. And I can say for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, with that trading webinar, man, it's been nothing but success. And, if somebody even say they were making money in a demo account, that to me is a success, because there's so many people that have been trading for years and they say that they were having a hard time consistently putting in trades. You've told me so many different stories. It's
I have had zero complaints because I give you everything. That's like when you get the trust, we give you everything. So you can't say that, oh man, it don't work. No, only thing you can say to yourself is, I ain't getting it done. Like,
execution.
it's execution. How you gonna be a successor and you're not executing? So we pretty much put it in your hands. Like, okay, I can't make you go get your money. I can't make you study every day. I'm not gonna call you every day. Christian can't make you study the trust. That's on you. So I have had zero complaints. I have had more success stories than most people probably have with big organizations. Like, I pride myself in that. I haven't helped.
I think I just gotta go out there and throw it out there. How come you don't have the big head with the success that you have with literally helping people maneuver with the intellectual property that you share with them? I want to know why you don't have the big head on that. Knowing that people that have gone through the training, knowing the results you got. I mean, when you're able to help people eliminate certain things debt-wise because you've helped them, once again, acquire intellectual property and be able to benefit from that, why haven't you gotten a big head on it? Why are you humble about this?
Nowadays, people want. I'm a private person. I always been a private person. I'm in a private setup. I don't care about no internet. I don't care how much money you gonna make off of it. 'Cause guess what? I can go in there and make whatever I want to off of it. That's what the kids program for free. Like, if I'm trying to get y'all to see, even though we talking about trade and the people you see online, I done ran across on them guys. Them guys don't trade like that. Their account ain't like that. A lot of them getting a network marketing check behind me. That ain't what we doing. I'm teaching you a real skill. So you ask yourself the question, why is this guy sitting on the internet posting every day if he making so much money? I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. I had these issues in my transition from public to trust. If you moving that type of money, you got attention on it. And guess what? You're not going to be able to move that much money in the public without the IRS and everybody else on your neck. So I know they ain't making that type of money, because they too freely showing you stuff that they really ain't got. If y'all motivated by somebody in the club popping bottles and they car and nobody talked about a business, y'all on the wrong channel.
I mean, let's just be. We gotta give a gem if we're gonna throw that out there. You gotta look at the person's balance sheet. You gotta look at the P&L with a company.
Trying to say.
Come on now, people are fascinated with what they consider even a lifestyle. I mean, women wear makeup. Excuse me for saying it, but it's easy to touch things up. It's easy to touch blemishes up. But the fact of the matter is, the balance sheet. I mean, a lot of people are debt rich and cash poor. And there are some people that are asset rich and still just cash flow. They cash flow their lifestyle. They have assets working for them. They have businesses working for them. They can show you, hey, look, if I actually wanted to go get a loan, this company can go get a loan because it has this much money going through the bank account every month. It's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, to hear the succession thought process out here nowadays and the lack of it. And that's because it's a public thought process of you owning something your whole life and dying with it in your name and then not having some type of succession or estate plan in place. That is the public game. The private game says we don't own anything, we control it, because that's how the vault moves, that's how the private trustees move. We look forward to you all joining us in the private. If that's something you want to do, private trustee training. You got Cornell. If you guys want to get in contact with Cornell for the webinar that's going to be on the 7th or 8th, please feel free to reach out. Christian at Trust Christian. We'll forward you over to Cornell. We'll get you guys in contact with him. Very smooth and seamless process through the vault, and we look forward to you all joining us. Look forward to hearing from you all. Probably going to do another episode pop up this week.